We're happy to have you on board. Good afternoon and welcome to the special called meeting for Tuesday, October the 1st, 2024 for the City Commission of Henderson, Kentucky. If you would, please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can we have a call for attendance, please?
Commissioner Witt.
Here.
Commissioner Vowell.
Here.
Commissioner Thomas. Absent. Commissioner Pruitt.
Here.
Mayor State.
Here. First up on the agenda is we have a presentation for recognition of new employees.
Trace, do you mind to bring yours first?
Sure.
So the Parks Department is lucky enough that we were able to hire 2 new employees. This brings us up to a full complement in the Parks Department and eliminates our last open full-time position. First, I'll introduce Nick Peckinpah. He actually started with us as a temporary, did such a great job, we decided to bring him on as a full-time. So he's the new grounds maintenance worker. And then we've got Mike Shelton, who we brought on in the more traditional manner through the interview process, and we brought him on as our grounds maintenance worker too. So you'll see Nick taking care of the downtown parks, and you'll see Mike out and about fixing broken things in the parks. So these are our 2 new employees.
All right, well, welcome.
Welcome.
We really appreciate having you guys.
Well,
Trace, by the way, his job description, number 13, he's going to become the new farm manager.
Out there by Pratt.
No, all our farms. Kevin, do you mind to come up next?
Hey, good afternoon. With the Henderson Water Utility, we got 3 new utility system worker positions that were filled. Moses Coleman, Casey Green, who started yesterday, Brazen Zimmerman, who is actually the son of our mechanic, Tommy Zimmerman, and he actually started several months ago through a internship with the high school and then came on full-time once that ended. So pleased to have them here with us.
awesome.
Certainly, certainly the brightest people I've ever seen.
Yeah.
In both ways.
Both ways. There you go, yeah.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Chief?
Good afternoon. So Jason Cullum was my public information officer at the Evansville Police Department for several years. Actually became one of the top public information officers in the country. Did a 6-month fellowship at the Department of Justice in DC during that time and is pretty well known. So he had retired and was at UE, missed law enforcement, so he went back. He was working in Princeton, Indiana. And when I got this job, I knew I was going to target him, and I've been recruiting him. So he is going to be the public information officer for the police department. So Jason Cullum.
Hey, welcome.
Thanks for coming on board. We have a police department that is very welcoming to people who think they're going to leave law enforcement but decide to come back into the position, right?
I've told him, and he can attest, I'm loving it over here. And I said, you're going to like it, so come on over.
So, Chief, we would ask him to say a word or two, because typically, we know that he always spoke for you. So we'd like
I'm going to go ahead and
hear
sit down because
him
it's been taking
I told the ladies in the back, you don't want to get me up here, but I want to get out of here by 6:30. I'm just excited to be here. I love that aspect of the work. I was Billy's PIO for 8 years. Missed it when he reached out in the spring and said, hey, I'm thinking about some things. It was a hard decision to leave the kids. I was a school resource officer in Princeton, but it wasn't a hard decision to come here and do the work. So I'm excited for the future. And the first couple of weeks have been really positive. So again, appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was excellent, wasn't it? Yeah, I think you're going to do well at this job. Is that it?
That is it.
All right, all right. We got a good crop of people coming in. That's great. Let's see. Next up, we have a set of meeting minutes that we need to read into the record. Do we have a consent agenda?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, we have a consent agenda, including a set of meeting minutes.
All right. The consent agenda consists of the minutes of the September 17th, 2024 regular meeting and resolution number 54-24, resolution approving human resources report dated October 1st, 2024.
Before we get a motion, do we have any item that any commissioner would like to pull from the agenda for further discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Witt,
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles,
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Mayor Staten.
Aye. Next up, we have a second reading of an ordinance related to the Finance Department.
Ordinance number 44-24, ordinance amending job classifications and pay plan. An ordinance approving amendment to job classifications and pay plan by creating the position of Assistant Utilities Billing Supervisor.
Motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, this is something that we have discussed before during the first reading, but are there any other questions, comments, suggestions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Witt,
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles,
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Mayor Staten.
Aye. Next up, we have another ordinance related to the Finance Department.
Ordinance number 45-24, ordinance amending portion of City of Henderson fiscal year 2025 budget. Ordinance amending City of Henderson budgeted positions and job classifications of the 2024 through 2025 budget for certain non-hazardous positions in the Finance Department.
Do we have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any comments, questions, or suggestions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Witt,
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles,
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Mayor Staten.
Aye. Next up, we have an ordinance authorizing general obligation bonds.
Okay, and I did record it this time.
That's the way to go.
At least 1.5, yeah, so I may sound like a little,
Sure.
sure up here. Ordinance number 46-24, an ordinance of the City of Henderson, Kentucky authorizing the issuance of its City of Henderson, Kentucky General Obligation Bond Series 2024A in an approximate aggregate principal amount of $12,165,000, which principal amount may be increased by up to $1,220,000 or decreased by any amount for the purposes of financing the cost of the acquisition, construction, installation, and equipping of 1, a fire station for the Henderson Fire Department, 2, a convention center, 3, a road construction project for a retail development, and 4, a sports pavilion. Approving the form of the bonds, authorizing designated officers of the city to execute and deliver the bonds, authorizing and directing the filing of a notice with the state local debt officer, providing for the payment of and security for the bonds, establishing a bond payment fund for the bonds, affirming the maintenance of the existing sinking fund, authorizing the acceptance of the bid of the purchaser of the bonds, and repealing inconsistent ordinances. The ordinance authorizes the city to issue a series of general obligation bonds designated as the City of Henderson, Kentucky General Obligation Bond Series 2024A, the bonds in an approximate aggregate principal amount of $12,165,000, which amount may be increased by up to $1,220,000 or decreased by any amount for the purposes of 1, paying all or a portion of the cost of the acquisition, construction, installation, and equipping of A, fire station for Henderson Fire Department, B, a convention center, C, a road construction project for a retail development, and D, a sports pavilion. 2, paying capitalized interest on the bonds if desirable. 3, paying the cost of any credit enhanced for the bonds. And 4, paying the cost of issuance of the bonds. Provisions are made in the ordinance for the payment of the bonds and the security therefore, the application of the proceeds of the bonds, the creation of a bond payment fund for the bonds, and the continuation of the city's existing sinking fund. The ordinance also contains certain covenants made by the city in connection with the bonds. The bonds are to be sold at public competitive sale and shall mature or be subject to mandatory sinking fund redemption in varying amounts on December 1st of each year, commencing December 1st, 2025, through and including December 1st, 2044. The bonds pledge the full faith, credit, and taxing power of the city, and provision has been made for the collection of the tax to pay the principal and interest due on the bonds, subject to certain credits as provided in Section 12 of the ordinance, as required by KRS 83A.060. Section 12 of the ordinance is set forth below in its entirety. Section 12, General Obligation Pledge. The bonds shall be full general obligations of the city, and the full faith, credit, and taxing power of the city are hereby pledged for the prompt payment of the bonds and the interest thereon. During the period of the bonds remaining outstanding, they shall be, and there hereby is, levied annually on all taxable property in the city, in addition to all other taxes, without limitation as to rate, a direct tax in an amount sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on the bonds as and when due. It being hereby found and determined that the current tax rates of the city are within all applicable limitations. The tax shall be and is hereby ordered to be computed, certified, levied, and extended upon the tax duplicate to be collected by the same officers in the same manner and at the same time that taxes for general purposes for each of the years are certified, extended, and collected. The tax shall be placed before and in preference to all other items and for the full amount thereof, provided, however, that in each year, to the extent other lawfully available funds of the city are available for the payment of the bonds and are appropriated for such purpose, the amount of such tax upon all of the taxable property in the city shall be reduced by the amount of such other funds so available and appropriated.
You read a whole lot faster when you're not here. Can we have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Can we have a second? Second. So on this one, these are such this is such a big ordinance. I do want to slow down and just take a second to talk about it. We talked last week a little bit, we had last meeting, excuse me. We had bond counsel here that was talking about how we are stable and have a really good credit rating here at the city. He also talked about the expected interest rate being around 3.5% to 4% roughly. It was the expected interest rate, assuming normal market conditions until we get the bond produced. Buzzy, do you mind I know she read some of it there, it was kind of fast. Do you mind to tell us a little bit more about what these bonds are for?
Okay, I'll go through the list of projects that this bond will cover for reimbursement. Number one is our fire station number one replacement that is going on 2nd and Adams Street, across the street from Holy Name Church. We expect Dylan to bid that probably sometime in November or December. Second project, if y'all remember, the state legislature has appropriated funds to help construct a convention center in Alden Park. And as part of that project, the city and county have agreed in principle to provide funding toward that project. So we have put in that bond issuance, our amount that we will cover part of that project obligation. The third project is road construction. It supports retail development. It is something that we will probably bring forward to you probably at the end of October, no later than the 1st of November. It is something we discussed at our last meeting, but it's to help plan our way into the future in conjunction with I-69. And then the final project is the sports pavilion. It's not the sports complex. It has to do with a project that's been on the books now for several years at Newman Park. And it's something Dylan brought to y'all quite some time ago. And part of that funding for that project will come out of this bond issuance. The balance of that money has been set aside as part of our reserves to get that project started. And I can say it's probably been on the books for well over 5 years. We're just now getting to the point to do something with it.
Thank you. And just to give everybody a little bit more of an update, since we're on bonding and we're talking about the conference center, I had a conversation with Mark Keelan, who is our former parks director, recently about the status of the conference center and where we're at on everything. And he said the governor has identified it as a priority project, and that he would like to see a ribbon cut on the convention center by the time he leaves office. And so they are marching forward with environmental studies and geothermal or geotechnical, all that. And just to remind us, when we started that project, the idea was it was going to be a $15 million project, and that we were going to go in 50-50 with the state and figure out how we were going to get that match money. And so when we started the project, we thought that there's a possibility the city would owe $3.75 million toward the conference center and the additional road that's going to come into Audubon State Park. And because of the way that things have worked out and because of the hard work of our state legislators, honestly, it looks like the entire project as we know it today, it's always subject to change depending on a lot of different factors. It's going to come in around $17 million project, but the local match total would be closer to $5 million. And so when we're talking about the city's portion of that, instead of doing $3.5 to $4 million, it looks like we're going to be closer to $2.5 to $2.75 million would be our final match. And usually projects don't work out like that where you're a little under where you started, but But that's kind of a good update there. Any other questions or comments or anything about the bonds?
No, nothing, but I'm just saying, just piggyback off that, for us to only have to be obligated for 2.5, and we're gonna get a convention center here in Henderson and Osmond State Park. It's amazing to be able to have something come, and we only have to invest 2.5.
It's super exciting, and we don't have to staff it or operate it or maintain it or schedule it. It'll be all obligations of the state, and they're just as excited as we are to improve that state park. So it's kind of a really nice example of that partnership there.
And it helps bring Osmond Park back.
Yep. Good deal. Any other questions or comments? Did we get a motion in a second? I think we did. All right. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Whitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Dowles?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
All right.
Mayor State?
Aye. Next up, we have a municipal order awarding a bid for a 2024-2025 trencher.
Municipal order number 79-24, municipal order awarding bid for purchase of a new 2024 Vermeer RTX 450 tractor trencher with backhoe attachment for Henderson Municipal Gas to Vermeer of Indiana Incorporated of Newburgh, Indiana in the amount of $97,386.
A motion to approve, please.
So move.
Do we have a second? Second. Do we have any comments, questions, suggestions?
The only comment, the piece of equipment came in over budget. We've discussed it with finance. We will square up at our mid-year budget review. And the other thing I will make mention is the item that it's replacing will be put on gov deals. We expect it will probably bring pretty good money, and so that may offset the overage in the budget. So we'll just advise you as we move along with that.
Do you have any other questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Whitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Dowles?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Mayor State?
Aye. Next up, we have a municipal order for a bid for a 2023 or newer used small sports utility vehicle.
Municipal order number 80-24, municipal order awarding bid for purchase of one 2025 Ford Escape all-wheel drive for the administration department to Town and Country Ford of Evansville, Indiana in the amount of $25,803.
We have a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second. Do we have any comments, questions, suggestions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Whitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Dowles?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Mayor State?
Aye. Next up, we have a municipal order pertaining to Tidwell Drive.
Municipal order number 81-24, municipal order awarding bid for the construction of Henderson Municipal Gas Bentley Point Tidwell Drive exposure remediation to Utility Safety and Design Incorporated of Albany, Illinois in the amount of $80,000.
We have a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Do we have any comments, questions, or suggestions?
Tim, do you mind to come to the podium? A lot of people do not know where Tidwell Drive is.
I don't know. Is that in Bentley Point? I'm assuming, yeah.
Sort of give us a background of what's happened here.
Yeah, Tidwell Drive is at the end of Bentley Point, new subdivision back by the retention pond. And we have a high-pressure gas line that runs through that area. And currently it's exposed in 2 different locations. And it's been there for probably 50-plus years, and it's just gotten exposed from erosion, from rain in that crop field. So once we find that, we have to make a plan pretty quickly to remediate it and get it back buried underground. So the total cost, $80,000 is for the labor, and then we probably got another $10,000 or $20,000 in materials, so about $100,000 to the lower section of about 400 feet of that pipe. So it's
So
pretty
when-
expensive to lower it.
Once we do this, Tim, is this going to be considered a permanent fix?
Yes.
So it should not be an issue in the future? It should be forever corrected?
Yes, we'll put the new line in about at least 7 feet deep below the new bottom of the ditch. So it should never erode to that point. And then they're also taking care of some of the erosion, Jago is, in the water department, to kind of put some riprap in there and make sure that it doesn't erode anymore. should be good to go.
Had it gone undeveloped, it would have been an ongoing problem, in my opinion, in the future. So this development sort of brought to light of what we needed to do, so.
Do you have any questions for Tim while he's up here? Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Tim.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Whitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Howes,
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Mayor State.
Aye. Next up, we have a municipal order for a sports complex press box. Say that 5 times fast.
Municipal order number 82-24. Municipal order awarding bid for construction of a press box at Henderson Sports Complex to Art Construction Company Incorporated of Evansville, Indiana, in the amount of $748,690.
Thank you, ma'am. We have a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Dylan, I'm assuming you walked up here because you want to speak about it?
Yeah, well, so anytime we bring anything before the board for approval that's related to the sports complex, I like to talk about the holistic picture. I think ever since we first talked about awarding the initial $10.5 million contract, I made it clear to the board what that included, what it didn't include, that sort of things, and then kind of presented you all options. So just to be clear, the press box, so we met in March, and I think the most recent, budget estimate as far as total expenses, no credits, was about $18.5 million, and those were the things that the board expressed at the time that they were interested in. The press box was included in that, has always been included in that. Originally, we had hoped to use land and water. We have a land and water grant that we're still waiting on approval for, and we had originally hoped to use that money for the press box, but we ended up saying we've waited long enough, we need to go ahead and do the press box. So we've shifted those funds, we've revised our scope of work, and we're going to use that for the playground. So whenever we get those funds released and we can use them, we're going to apply that to those. So I'm going to throw some numbers out at y'all really quick just to kind of show you where we stand. So in March, when I presented kind of all the options that the board had kind of expressed interest in, that was about $18.6 million. Some of those things we procured separately to save money. Once again, that doesn't include any of the credits that we've received either through naming rights or grants, that sort of thing. And we have made some adjustments up and down a little bit, but today, even with the press box and it coming in a little bit higher than we had anticipated, it also includes a couple shade structures and a lot of concrete work as part of the bid. I want to mention that while I'm thinking about it. But we're still at, if we were to spend everything that we are anticipating to spend today, which we haven't, we still have about $4 to $5 million left to spend, we're still in that 18.6 million kind of total expense range. The one thing I will note is in the overall budget, we did end up deciding to pull, we had some money allocated in there for the signage along the Audubon Parkway. We ended up pulling that and kind of reallocating that because we thought that that might be a project better suited along the interstate. We would get more traffic. So that's kind of a project that we kind of said we're going to pull from this one for the moment. So basically, when you take that 8.6 in expenses that we kind of are, once again, that's not what's spent yet. That's just kind of what, all together, those are the projects we're kind of interested in. When you take out roughly the $1 million that the county's given us, and then the $200,000 for the land and water grant, that gets us down to about 17.4. So I only say that to say this $750,000 press box is not in addition to that 18.5. This is part of that number. And then, so the last piece I want to talk about number-wise is I spoke with Chelsea, our finance director, and the most important thing we're trying to do now is manage how much bond proceeds we have remaining versus how much we're anticipating spending. And when you look at that, we have, if we were to spend everything on our list, some of which we're still in the process of procuring, like the playground I mentioned, the press box, paving, all of that stuff is still included in that $18.5 million. We just haven't spent it yet. If we were to spend all of that, we're about $4.3 million left to spend. And in talking with Chelsea, we have about $3.8 million in bond proceeds still available to spend toward that. So it's about a $500,000 difference. But what I haven't mentioned yet are the naming rights. And so to date, we have about $855,000 in pledged or anticipated funds. Now, some of those have been given in lump sums, up front, even though they're good for 5 years. Some of those will come in over 5 years. So basically, all that's to say, we have the money we have the money set aside to pay for this. So if you all vote to proceed forward with this, it's been part of that 18.5 that we've always talked about. We have the bond money to pay for it. So that's kind of a long-winded way of just giving you all an update of where we stand from a 10,000-foot view. with this and how the press box fits into that. So with that, I'll see if y'all have any questions for me.
Have any questions for Dylan?
No, you cleared mine up. I was wanting to know, is that gonna be added on?
Mhm. Yes, sir.
We're good.
Yeah, and another thing I just wanted to point out, because when you talk about like big ticket items, I remember when we first started this discussion and you brought it to us and the base bid was 10.5.
Mhm.
There might have been some confusion, not on our part, but just because that 10.5 base bid there didn't include the lighting, for example.
Correct.
It was an extra $1.5 million, and didn't include any of the options that we were looking at. Those were all added. So we kind of knew when we did the bond proceeds from the last bond issue, how much we were going to spend. And I'm happy to hear that we have enough money left from those bond proceeds to fund the rest of the project, just like we thought we would. Also, just wanted to point out that in the last 2 years, since we've been sitting on the commission, even though we've had this big ticket item and those extra bond proceeds and bond issuance, we have cut personal property tax
Yes.
by 10 to 15%, somewhere around there. And then we did a very small real property tax cut this year, and the rest of our taxes that we control, we left the same. And so we haven't had to, in the last 2 years, raise any taxes, and in fact, we've been able to lower them, even though we've had this big ticket item on there. So thank you for such a thorough review. I know there were questions out there on if we were going to spend this extra money.
Correct, yes,
And
sir.
I think you did a really good job of clearing that up.
Well, thank you. And the one thing I do want to say, just for clarification, a few weeks ago, I did present on this concept of turfing the 2 extra multi-purpose fields. That is not included in the 18.5. So that would be in addition to that. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. That'll be something we'll talk at the work session later this month, so.
Yes.
And I'm grateful, like, piggyback off what the mayor just said about the tax thing. When, years ago, we always wanted to give our kids something real nice, but we knew it had a big price tag on it. And we knew if we did this, we'd have to raise taxes. But for this government here to be able to give the kids a sports complex and lower taxes, we're doing a great job. And I'm proud of this group. And like you said, over the last 2 terms, we've set ourselves in a direction so we can keep taxes here or even lower and still provide services for our kids and our community.
Yeah, I think Buzzy and Dylan especially deserve a lot of admiration because you kind of know what the vision is from us, and you've been able to execute it flawlessly, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate
So we have a motion and a second on the table. Any other comments or questions or suggestions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Whitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Powell,
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt,
All right.
Mayor State.
Aye. Next up is City Manager's Report.
I only have one item today, and I'm asking for support from the Board of Commissioners to apply for 2026 IRT mission, to bring it back to Henderson and the surrounding counties. And if y'all remember, that exercise was this summer. It was a 2-week program that brought healthcare, vision, dental, and veterinary services to our community. It was very successful. We can tell you that our friends at GRAD reached out to us via telephone call they got from Washington to ask if we would be applying again. And we were given a choice of either doing a healthcare mission or other missions that they could provide. But when Holly, Dylan, and Sam and I talked about it, we felt like the healthcare has a bigger impact on our community than anything else that the military could provide. So if acceptable and concurrence by this board, we will proceed forward. Again, it takes about 2 years to bring this about, but right now the process is open for 2026.
So
Need a
from,
motion on that?
I was about to ask, you want a motion or do you just want a consensus?
A consensus would be fine.
Okay, we'll start with Commissioner Vowles and move down the line. How do you feel about it, sir?
I think absolutely. We appreciate you putting in the work to do this last time around. It worked out really well. I know it took up a lot of the city's resources for a short amount of time, but I think it was worthwhile for us to do.
Me
Commissioner
too.
Pruitt?
I think it was well worthwhile. This is a pair of glasses that I got from them over there. I already know, the first day, it wasn't very many people, but by the time it got to about the 3rd day, it was a swamp. People were everywhere. So it was well worth it.
Commissioner Witt?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they valued it, what the services provided of, what, around $1 million or so? Is that
Yes.
right, Holly? Somewhere around there, yeah. So, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and with me, you're betting 1,000. I really appreciate all the work that you guys did this year, and to have them want to come back, and to get a call from Washington saying, hey, Henderson, you want us back? That's kind of nice. And yeah, no doubt this commission's going to support it going forward, so.
One thing I will say, you have staff that will be here to implement it if we're lucky. And reinventing the wheel won't be something that will be new to staff, so I fully expect be no unforeseen things. Yes, some of the challenges we had, but again, we proved that our partnership with Brad and the military was a successful program.
Thank you too, Holly.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Sam,
sir.
if he's back there.
Yep.
Sam?
Sam.
Yeah, it was just such
Thank you.
it was such a big deal for the military and for the community. I mean, it's just like what you said. There's, what was it, thousands of people and animals were serviced, and it was nice.
So I will tell a quick win-win story. One of the military folks by the name of H.W. Went to all the Henderson Flash games, and he continued to follow them through the playoffs, correct, Holly? And before their final game, he called and gave them a pep talk over the telephone. But I can say, I think he honestly cheered them on to a successful season, unlike anything I've ever seen of someone from the outside coming in. So it's been a positive experience for
Yes.
several of those military folks.
Good deal. Well, we have nothing else on the agenda except for the need for an executive session. Can we have a motion for executive session, please?
I move that the commission go into executive session pursuant to KRS Section 61.810 subsection 1B for the discussion that may lead to the future acquisition of real property located in the vicinity of Washington and Atkinson Streets.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And before we get a vote, Dawn, I'm assuming we're not coming back with any action? All right, so we're going to stay. So we're going to stay in this room, and we'll have a roll call, please, on the executive session.
Commissioner Witt?
Aye.
Commissioner Powell?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Mayor State?
Aye.